Spotlight is proudly sponsored by HEC Media, St. Louis's home for arts, education, and culture.
We're trying to make arts accessible to anyone.
How do you break barriers? What do? You break bread, right? That term, break bread?
Everyone wants to play the focal point.
Today on Spotlight, inside the 3 exhibits on view at the Contemporary Art Museum. Plus, a novel about courage and resilience as an Asian family moves from Hong Kong to LA. And then the Tran family risked everything immigrating to the U.S. Now they own 2 popular restaurants in St. Louis. But first, a group making theater performances enjoyable for all audiences. It's Sunday and you're watching the multiple Emmy Award-winning Spotlight.
This is one of the first rehearsals for Ignite Theater's show, High School Musical. But when the show hits the stage, there will be one performance that's exceptionally unique. The group calls it Arts for All.
What Arts for All aims to do is get rid of any roadblocks that would keep someone from being able to come in and enjoy a theater performance, whether that is mobility or any sensory processing, any visual or auditory issues, anything that could happen. We're trying to make those arts accessible to anyone so they can come in a truly judgment-free environment and enjoy the arts.
Going to the theater can be stressful for parents and children with special needs, but not with Ignite.
I think when he was younger, I had tried to take him to a show, and just that feeling like, oh gosh, he's being so loud, and you just get very kind of uptight about it and realize that, yeah, people are either looking at you or saying something, and that element is completely wiped away.
Colleen Williamson took her son Liam when he was younger to Ignite's sensory-friendly performance of Seussical. At the time, he wasn't very verbal, but he could fully embrace his love of Dr. Seuss through the show.
Just the freedom for him to be himself and to be an audience member and to enjoy something without the judgment was so important, and it was so meaningful both for him and for me. And I mean, even when I think about it, I get emotional about it because it was so life-changing for him.
Not only did Liam enjoy watching the shows over the years, he discovered a new passion for acting.
Well, I was in Newsies, and before Newsies, I was in Heroes vs. Villains.
The Arts for All shows began as sensory-friendly performances, which included some changes in the program, such as reducing loud or jarring sounds, cutting out flashing or strobe lights, keeping the theater lights up, and allowing the audience to move freely during the show. Sometimes props are included.
After the show, you're welcome to stay and meet the cast members.
The group offers an introductory video for parents to share with their children, telling them what to expect at the performances.
Each show is a little bit different. So for a younger show like High School Musical, which we have coming up, we offer things like stims, pops, fidgets, things that people can do in the audience. We have a wiggle section that has flexible seating, so if families need to get up or play or make noise, they can, and there's no judgment.
This way, and right here tonight.
Theater leaders also make sure the performers are prepared for anything during the shows.
Just making sure they know these cast members, these patrons are just people like them. They want to come and enjoy the show, and with a few minor alterations, we can really ensure that they love the arts as much as the people on stage do.
Making arts accessible to all is a movement close to the heart of performer Kira Williams, who also wants to be an advocate for children with challenges.
I understand what it's like to feel different, and I understand what it's like to have different needs and different wants.
For her and others, theater has brought unity and understanding.
There's a lot of acceptance, and I just love performing overall. It brings a lot of joy into my life. I know I can be me around these people because they're my friends, and they are kind and accepting, and they understand me.
The special performances by Ignite are free, yet another inclusive way to share the sights, sounds, and emotions of musical theater and make the arts truly for all.
Ignite Theater's Arts for All sensory-friendly performance of High School Musical will take place Wednesday, May 4th at 6 p.m. at Bayless High School's auditorium. Visit ignitewithus.org for more info.
HEC Media. Recognized, celebrated, honored time and again for excellence in the industry. HEC Media has been bringing home the hardware for over a decade. Arts and education to author talks, magazine shows and documentaries, individual craft achievements to overall excellence. Find all of the award-winning content at hecmedia.org.
I'm Wesson Al-Qaderi. I'm the Chief Curator at the Contemporary Art Museum in St. Louis. We are opening our Spring-Summer 2022 season of exhibitions. So this season we have 3 exhibitions in the main galleries. Correspondences Towards the Living Object by Galopour's Kim, Alia Farid's A Solo Exhibition, and Martin Gutierrez's Hit Movie Volume 1. And each of these artists is kind of prolific in their own right, working in a variety of different mediums, from painting to drawing, video to sculpture and installation. So there's a lot to see that's all very different. They're all artists working kind of at the forefront of contemporary art today from a lot of different locations, but thinking about issues that I think relate to everyone in St. Louis and beyond. In the exhibitions, there are conversations around authorship, around identity and archetypes of femininity, and there's also a beautiful meandering kind of film about the fisherman's New Year in Keshem, which is an island off the coast of Iran. Galopour's Kim, Correspondences Towards a Living Object, is an exhibition that brings together 5 main projects of the artists that have occurred over time. And her practice is a research-based practice that really thinks about the role of the object and how object creates meaning, and the way in which institutions situate and present objects to tell a particular story or history. So when you visit the exhibition, you'll be able to kind of explore 5 different projects that Gala has taken on, where she has written to either a museum or a cultural institution about a particular object or group of objects that they have in their collection, poking at the systems that exist in museums that make objects have to live and speak a certain story. So questions around registration, conservation, legal policies, and such. Martin Gutierrez, Hit Movie Volume 1, is a commissioned work. So Martin Gutierrez was invited to CAM to make a new work of art. So the work that you're going to see is brand new, made for the exhibition and made for St. Louis, which is really exciting. It's a video montage work that challenges the archetypes of femininity and does that by engaging in 1990s kind of blockbuster Hollywood action films. It's a really dynamic film shown on our project wall and is accompanied by a movie poster, which is a large photograph you can see when you enter the museum, and a large teaser video or trailer that you can see on the exterior of the building in the evening when you drive by CAM. And the third exhibition in the main galleries is Alia Farid, A Solo Exhibition. It is a single work of art, a single video that is a really poetic and enchanting film that documents the annual Fisherman's New Year. It takes place in Keshem, an island off the coast of Iran, and it is both kind of visually and I think audibly a very kind of entrancing film that I think people will really enjoy. Upstairs, we have an exhibition that is chronicling an ongoing collaboration under the title Collective Impact. It's a collaboration, a partnership between CAM and Creative Reaction Lab. And it's a sort of opportunity for the 2 organizations to come together and kind of create a vessel for thinking and dialogue. The partnership is really community focused and invites people from 3 neighborhoods around CAM's community to engage in dialogue and discuss what are some of the challenges and issues facing our communities today. CAM's Spring-Summer season of exhibitions is open now and it's free. You can visit CAM Thursday through Sunday, and we have our open hours posted on our website at camstl.org. The shows run until July 24th, and invite people to also drive by in the evening and check out the video that's playing on the outside of the building. If you're coming to Grand Center and leaving your car to go home, just do a lap around and come check out what we're showing there's always something to see at camp.
A concert venue playing everything from jazz to bluegrass. Later on Spotlight.
My name is Knox, and sometimes I just blurt words out. It drives everyone in my family crazy. I don't mean to, I just really need to know things. Like right now, when my dad's trying to explain the coronavirus to us and the reasons why we're going to America. It's safer there, Dad says. They don't have the virus. How's it safer, I ask. He just said, my brother Bo interrupts. Listen for a change, not.
New York Times bestselling author Kelly Yang is the author of the award-winning Front Desk series for middle grade readers. Front Desk was awarded the 2019 Asian Pacific American Award for Literature and was named a Best Book of the Year by NPR, The Washington Post, and the New York Public Library. Kelly's new book, New From Here, is based on her own family's personal experience of moving from Hong Kong to California at the beginning of the pandemic. Kelly's main character, Knox, must adjust to being the new kid at school while also facing rising anti-Asian racism in his community. Filled with humor and wisdom, New From Here is an uplifting story of resilience and hope in extraordinary times. For today's conversation, Kelly Yang is joined by Jeff Kinney, creator of the children's literature sensation Diary of a Wimpy Kid.
Tell us about the state of the world when we meet up with Knox and his family in Hong Kong.
So the state of the world is still very much still very much like curious about this virus, and we don't know much about it. The Wei Evans family kind of has a head start because they've been through SARS, which I've been through. The thing about SARS was it was contained in Hong Kong. So when I found out about COVID, at the time, there wasn't even a name for it. It was just the novel coronavirus. I went into like mom protection mode. I was gonna, my maternal instincts kicked in. I was just gonna take the kids and put them somewhere safe. And my husband couldn't come. So that was the other thing that was just so hard. As soon as I landed, I remember just going, wow, those emotions, being on that airplane that day with all these people who thought that we had a lifeboat on the Titanic. We thought we were fleeing and that we were going to be safe. And it was just this roller coaster of emotions. I remember when we landed, everybody started clapping because we thought we were going to be safe. We had taken one of the last flights out. And I remember just thinking, wow, those emotions were so intense. I have to write about them.
This book is so funny. Some of my favorite passages are when the kids take on their parents' problems head on. They're trying to get their dad a job. Can you tell us a little bit about the kids' adventures with LinkedIn? Because that was my favorite stuff.
Yeah, so the kids decide to create a LinkedIn account for their dad in You From Here. And that's very much based on my own experience because my kids have always been trying to get their dad a job in the US, right? Because we were separated. So they kept calling him and going, well, why can't you just work at the gas station? I already talked to this guy and he's happy to give you $20 an hour, Dad. That's a really good job. And you might even be able to get free gas. Do you know how much that is? So they were constantly trying to get him a job. And I just noticed that. And I also thought it would be really funny if a kid made up a LinkedIn account.
And I was really curious about this, is that since this book mirrors your own family's experience, how do you know when to tell the truth and when to fictionalize things?
For me, it's always like I have a duty to report the deeper emotional truth. And when I write a scene, if that scene is best served by real details from my life, I'm happy to serve those up. If that scene is best served by, fiction, I'm also happy to weave some fiction into it. I think every scene does hold a lot of truth. And I think that the best scenes are ones where that emotion that we feel after reading that scene, that mirrors the real emotion that we went through. So I don't know. I definitely start off with what really happened, but then I dig into, well, what was the core thing that I felt during that moment?
Watch the full interview at hecmedia.org.
They are the best-selling authors and all of your favorite genres. For in-depth, one-on-one interviews, go to hecmedia.org.
Looking for St. Louis-centric videos to use in your classroom? Check out our educational resources at educate.today.
This story is brought to you in partnership with STL Made.
Our whole life has been survival. It was a tough journey. I'm a polio survivor, and my mom was a street haggler trying to make whatever she could. My father fought in the Vietnam War. They were coming to kill him. You know, there's no easy way to put that. And so we left, and we sought asylum. Coming here on that little boat or whatever, half of the people didn't even make it. To this day, it's almost like we live by that, you know, a life saved saves another life. St. Louis is a great city. And I think for people that explore, people that live here, I think most of them agree with me. It's a huge immigrant town. When we came to the States, my father, he was a mechanic. And then at nights, he cleaned toilets. So, you know, he had 2 jobs. My mother worked in she worked about 3 different Chinese restaurants. We grew up in an area called The Hill. So we're the only Vietnamese family living in Little Italy of St. Louis. And I remember my father playing soccer on the weekends. You know, there's him, a couple of his Vietnamese friends, a couple of his Laotian friends. You know, there was the Italians, the Irish, the Germans. They were all playing soccer. Then for about 5 years, I stayed with cousins in a place called Laclede Town in the old Mill Creek area because my parents were working all the time. So we went from living with the Italians, now we're in a predominantly black area. It didn't matter that I was different, you know, in Little Italy, and it didn't matter that I was different, you know, in a predominantly black area. And so it was great. How do you break barriers? What do? You break bread, right? That term, break bread. You sit around a dinner table and you discuss the issues and we talk about it and we come to understand and love one another. The restaurant is a means of surviving, right? They didn't open it because they loved food. Before we had My Lee's, we had a little chop suey down in Jennings called China Wall. You know, Chinese restaurants were doing well during the 80s, and so she was like, you know, maybe this is what we should do. Late 1984, we opened My Lee's, and we didn't do very well.
1 year, I sell the hamburger, French fry, Saint Paul, everything. And after a year, I see the business not too good.
But how do you distinguish yourself from all the other successful Chinese restaurants? So mom goes, well, we're Vietnamese. Why aren't we selling Vietnamese food? There's the beginning of the first Vietnamese restaurant in St. Louis. And the rest is history. A lot of times I resented the restaurant because I always worked. I did my homework at the restaurant, I slept at the restaurant. You know, I studied at the restaurant. I mean, it's just kind of like, we're off on spring break, they couldn't afford a babysitter. Guess what happens? I'm at the restaurant. But I actually even stepped out and did a couple other things that I did really well at. And it wasn't until like 1998, I think was when my mom, she got sick. And that basically thrown me back into the restaurant. Coming back, getting everything ready, learning everything, and then had a new vision for My Lee's. And so in 2010, after 25 years on the Del Mar location, I packed everything up and left. It was very scary because I'm like, if this doesn't work out, I'm the one that tanks the entire family's hard work.
My son come here, you know, he learn, go to school, and he learn from his mom and work in restaurant, talk with customer. He talk more than me. He lovely, my son. I love him so much.
All the relationships that I have came from that restaurant. You know, all the lessons in life, most of them came from the restaurant. I just kind of traveled around the country, and my wife stumbled upon having real Japanese ramen. I was like, why doesn't anybody have this or do this in St. Louis? And she goes, why don't you do it? And so I was like, you know, you're right. The reason why My Lee's is successful, there's a woman's warmth to it, right? Mom's in the back. And so I think Nudo House, I wanted to portray that same energy, you know, that same warmth. And so I stumbled upon my partner, but I was like, she's the missing piece. And so now, guess what? She reminds me of my mother in the new restaurant. We continued on to Nudo, led us to a bunch of great things. So my legacy is, I want it to be that of what we've done in the community, what we've done for cuisine, what we've done for a city, you know, the inclusion. You walk into my restaurant right now, there's everything. Every gender, every sexual orientation, you know, every nationality, young, old, it doesn't matter. And, you know, we want to normalize that because that's what's normal to me. And that's what should be normal to everybody. I'm Quetran, and I'm proud to be STL made.
Visit thestl.com for more stories like this one.
You just never know where that spark is going to come from.
You're putting a human touch to everything through the vehicle of art. We give them the ability to hope.
Scan the QR code on your screen to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram.
My name is Sara Patino. I am the owner and designer of Sara Patino Jewelry. It's a collection that looks modern and timeless for women that want to look good, feel good, and do good. So the look good part is just having elevated, minimal, modern jewelry that is just easy to wear. So that's the feel-good part. You don't have to change it when you're going from yoga to work to happy hour. It just looks really good, whatever setting, wherever you go. And then the do-good part, I actually work only with recycled metals and ethically sourced stones. And I partner with raw material providers that are certified by SCS or the RJC. Also, I'm partnering with Women's Earth Alliance and donating 5% of net proceeds to that organization. They empower women, create leaders out of women, so they could also do great things for the earth and take care of our environment. I've been designing jewelry for about 12 years, maybe a little more than that. And I've always had a passion for creating with my hands. Throughout these years, I've noticed that women love jewelry. They find it very meaningful and they wear it every day. And so a lot of meaning gets attached to that jewelry. So I wanted to make something that they could feel really connected to, that was meaningful as well. I first start with like a big theme, like an idea, and something that feels like we can really relate to and connect with. For example, my last collection, the Harmony collection, was about finding joy in these unexpected moments. And I illustrated that through pieces such as this necklace I'm wearing here, kind of having this little offset stone on the side. It's kind of unexpected, it's placed off to the side, but at the same time it's beautiful. So just showing that you can find beauty in those unexpected moments. I hope that they feel joy. They feel like a sense of connection and like understand that through jewelry there is purpose, there is meaning, and that it can be beautiful on the outside, but also bear a lot of meaning on the inside as well.
See Sara's jewelry on display at the 35th Annual Laumeyer Art Fair, taking place in person Mother's Day weekend. Visit LaumeierSculpturePark.org/art fair for tickets and information. You can find the stories featured in today's show along with past episodes and more at hecmedia.org/spotlight.
Focal Point is a traditional arts center. Mainly we serve as a concert venue for any kind of music that people consider to be folk music. And that's pretty broad the way we the way we interpret it. We have jazz, we have old-time country music, we have bluegrass, we have Irish music, we try to get a lot of international music, and we try to feature a lot of local talent too. Probably the best way to describe our music is anything that you will not hear on commercial radio, right? The Focal Point began life in Webster Groves, and the people who owned the store there, the music store, they sold instruments and so on, Bill and Janet Boyer. They had in mind to do a coffee house. They began Focal Point in 1975 just as an adjunct, a spare room to the music store. They sold part of the building, and Focal Point as a separate entity sort of moved to a lot of different places. We were really lucky to find a building in Maplewood, and one thing happened after another that just made it perfect. For one thing, it's a nice shape. The sound carries well. When we ripped up the really ugly carpet that was in here, we discovered a danceable dance floor, and that was brilliant in itself. And then we went to some trouble to make it acoustically good. We put the sound baffles up. We have these nice wooden chairs that don't absorb sound. We're pretty well satisfied that acoustic music and music of all sorts in general sounds really good in this room.
My first gig at the Focal Point was probably around 1978 or 9. It was in a different location, but it was still ran by the same people. It's just been a real encouraging, welcoming, comfortable place to play. It's extremely relaxed because you know you're in good company and you're among friends, and it's just a great listening club. It's not huge, but you can still fit a good amount of people in here.
We're learning a few tricks along the way. We've just recently, because of the pandemic mostly, learned how to do live stream concerts.
So the Focal Point board decided during COVID that they couldn't just shut down and leave the musicians without a place to play. So they decided to start live streaming. So I got involved to help them purchase the equipment and then to train the staff. Once we started live streaming, then the board decided that 100% of the tips would go to the bands. So the tip information came up on the screen between each song and at the beginning and ending of those concerts. And so the live stream audience really supported the bands through the pandemic and gave them an opportunity to have revenue when they couldn't have other gigs. The response to the live streams was tremendous. All the bands obviously have their own followings, but Focal Point had a good following on Facebook, and that's where we live streamed, and that actually grew as we were live streaming. It gave the bands an opportunity to get more exposure, and it gave the fans an opportunity to see concerts.
Just kind of like playing in your living room with your family, you know, it's a really great place. It's the best listening room in St. Louis. It always has been, and it probably always will be. Everyone wants to play at the Focal Point.
Next week, how the mothers of MLK, Malcolm X, and James Baldwin shaped a nation. Plus, the Rose River Memorial honors lives lost to COVID. Thanks for watching Spotlight. Join us next Sunday at 9:30 a.m. on KPLR 11.